Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to do a little review of Horizons Phonics and Reading Book 2. Now this is a used copy that I purchased, but there's no writing inside and it's in a really good condition. I wanted to share with you how it looks like. Horizons Phonics, it's divided into 4 books. So this is book number 2. And this is considered level K. But me personally, I don't believe it's really level K. I believe this book can be used for an advanced kindergarten, an advanced first grade, or even into second grade. It all depends on where your child is. But what I wanted to say, just to point out, is that don't let it fool you that you see a big K and you think, oh, this is kindergarten only information. So don't skip through it. When you're looking at other curriculums for phonics, for me personally, I have looked at all about reading, and I have looked at different kinds of reading and phonics curriculums, and they're wonderful. But for me personally, I love this one because it's so concise and straight to the point. And you're gonna see that in just a second. So there's a total of 4 different books, and each book keeps progressing into phonics principles, and it's totally geared to the child. You're gonna see in just a second that it's super colorful. This is kind of the very first page. It says K, Phonics and Reading Level K. This is book 2, and it covers lessons from 41 through 80. So basically level 1 covers lessons 1 through 40. And then when you have level 1, you just focus on that individual book. Here you're working on book 2, you're working only on this book. And this book, there's also a reader book that comes with this book. I don't have it, but this is like a box curriculum that if you buy the kindergarten box, it comes with everything that you need in it from the website, Alpha Omega Publications. So when I go into here, this is our very first page, our very first lesson. And what we find here is that over here in the top, it's gonna tell us what we are working on. And we're working on silent E. And they are writing they're writing these as how you have I and then you have E at the end of a word, or 2 vowels within the word, such as ride or such as Bible, where you have an I. The I has the long vowel sound, I, and then the E at the end of the word is silent. So their way of visually representing that is by writing this line. I'm sure there's a name. I don't know the exact name, if it's Macron or if there's a different name, but this is just a visual representation. And then the E, they're crossing it out, kind of like how we do it in math. In a math book, you cross out a number, and here they're crossing it out. So if you're just looking at it as a glance, you're like, whoa, this is kind of a bunch of, it's not easy to understand at all. But there's the rest of the activities, the words don't have all of that written in it. They're just trying to make a point. Now, here when it says review, in this section right here, they would usually explain the rule, the phonics rule. So basically, the rule here is that when two vowels are close together in a word, the first one says its own name and the other one is silent, as in tame, file, dome, and cube. So these are just a few examples, and this is kind of how they wrote it, just to make it obvious to the child that, hey, from now on, this is the rule, and this is what phonetically, this is how the words are going to sound. And visually, we're making this kind of drawing just to represent and stress that out. Now, once the child understand that, here you're going to kind of not have to do all of these kind of drawings anymore, because visually when you just look at it, it's overwhelming if you don't really understand or have, interiorized the concept behind it. Anyway, now we move on to exercise 1, and there is a directions. Look at the pictures below. Put a circle around those you hear with the long I sound, as in file. So now this is the part that, after you've explained this part to the child, and of course, this book, there is also a teacher's manual that comes with each of the, I'm not sure if it comes with each of the books or if it's just one teacher manual, because I don't have a teacher's manual right now. So basically what I go by is the rule right here, the instructions right here. This is what you will read to the child. And then you let the child, make an attempt to read each word and try to follow the pattern of the double vowel within the word, and the first one being a long I. And that is kind of, that will be the exercise 3. The first exercise, just for the child to kind of take a moment and read each word. Now, I like that. And here there's like a little space that you can write your child's name. I like to write child's name, the age, and today's date. I try to cram all up that information there, just because I can always go back to and say, hey, when my child was these years old, this is what, my child was able to do. So I know I've spent a long time here, but like you can see, there is a lot of pictures, a lot of colors. I know that as an adult, maybe that's not something that we will gravitate towards all the time, but for children, this curriculum is nice for children. It's made for children, and I know other curriculums do not use so many pictures. But here's the thing. This is not a curriculum where you can only rely on pictures. The pictures are there to make the curriculum more colorful, more easy to follow. Children find it reinforcing. They are not overwhelming. The pictures are definitely not overwhelming. They are exactly what needs to happen. Now, sometimes some of the pictures are hard to figure out, and if you do have the teacher's manual, it's easier for the parent or teacher to kind of have that teacher's manual to find the right word that the picture is supposed to represent. Because within this workbook, you will not find any instructions for the teacher. This workbook goes from the very lesson that it starts with. It starts at lesson 41 and it ends at lesson, let me see where it ends. The very last page is also a lesson. This page is blank, but this one also is blank, and then here you still have a lesson. So you don't have any extra, you don't have any answer sheets, you don't have any teachers guides or directions. So everything related to the teacher is in a total separate book. So now I kind of wanted to show you the phonics pattern that this book goes through. It totally is, okay, so we started with the IE vowels. Then every lesson, basically, oh, I also wanted to show you the activities within. So here, that we covered the first ones. Here, the second one, it says print the words that have short vowel sound. Then after each word, add a silent E, cross out the E, cross it out, and make a straight line over the I. So here they're trying to, in this activity, they're trying to make it seem like how we did these kind of words. They just kind of wanted you to do that. But if you look closely, the first one is pen. But when the child writes it and adds the E, it turns into pine. So each of these words, it just shows the child how with a short vowel, you can make this word. With a long vowel and the silent E at the end, you can make a total different word. So there is a purpose in doing this. It's not just busy work. That's what I love this curriculum. And here on the lines below, write the words that match the pictures. Cross out the silent E and put a straight line over the vowel I to show it has the long I sound. So basically you're still kind of doing the same thing, but if you notice, while the child is doing this activity, the child is also printing and using handwriting. And that's something that's very, very important. So all throughout the book, there are opportunities for handwriting. And here, there's also opportunities for, you're still completing phonics, but you're doing it in a way that you're not doing handwriting. So whenever we do use handwriting, it's harder for the child to concentrate. It's more effort that the child has to put through. But here it says draw a line from the word to the picture it matches. So here the child needs to make an attempt to read each word and then draw a line to the corresponding picture. So that version is easier. Here it says read the sentences and draw a line to match the picture. So here the child has to read the sentences, look at each picture. Many times with this curriculum, sometimes the pictures will be something silly or something funny or something that may not happen in real life, but that the child will find it funny. So as the child is completing this work, the child is also laughing. It's also saying, oh, this can be, oh, this is so silly. And that makes it nice because the child is doing work, but it doesn't always feel like it's dreading work. And that's something that with other curriculums that are not, I want to say this is child friendly, other curriculums are more rigorous or more intense or more you feel like the child's working harder. But here the child is learning a new concept. That's very, very important. There's plenty of exercise opportunities, but still the child is having fun. Now, the last part here, it says read the makeup words. Now, this section is going to be having a few words that make no sense, they're made up, but at the same time, they still follow the rule. They have two vowels with a silent E at the end. So this is just trying to teach the child that as long as they understand the rule, they can attempt to pronounce and read that word even if they have never heard it before, even if it's a brand new word, or even if if the word itself doesn't make sense. So this one is another exercise to practice the rule. And when we flip the page, there is another opportunity here. Draw a line from the puzzle phrase to the picture it matches. And like you see, this one is an example of a silly picture because this probably would not happen in real life. But the child will find it funny to look at this picture, and sometimes this would not happen in real life, or the child may find it funny, and that adds a nice balance to the workload. And here, finish spelling the words under the pictures. So here, the bulk of the work is done. The child only has to add an I, and just kind of not really work on handwriting now, but just understand how the vowel fits, the long I fits within the word. So not everything is meant to be super difficult, but it's meant to reinforce it. Now, another thing I wanted to say is that now lesson 42 up at the top, we are working with a consonant blend. D and R, dir, like drill, drum. And there is, again, tons of practice here to put a circle around pictures that starts with the sound of dir. Now, like you have seen, now this lesson covers something totally different than what we covered in this lesson. The way you can progress through the lessons, like you say, this curriculum is not divided into days of the week. Like, this is what you should do on day 1. This is what you should do in day 2. Now, I do love that in other curriculums like master books for math or language arts. What I've seen, they have each exercise, each page corresponds to a day of the week within that week. They have one lesson per week. Here, it doesn't say lesson 42 is you start Monday this page, and then you do this next page on Tuesday, this page on Wednesday, and then this page on Thursday, and then this page on Friday. And then you have still one more page. It doesn't really say that, but you're more than welcome to divide it out. You're more than welcome to do this at the step of your child. If you see that your child is flying through the concept, then you're more than welcome to finish it quickly and move on. And again, like I said, these is actually 4 books. 4 books that cover, and this is how thick the book is. The book is really not that thick, but it's a wonderful book, but you don't need to rush it. If you're rushing through it, it just means that your child is understanding and it's moving right along, and if that's happening, then wonderful. Now, if you have a child who is in kindergarten, just understand that this may be a lot of rules, a lot of new information for your child. But if your child is in 1st grade, 2nd grade, and still chewing this information, the child may be able to make sense of this and be like, hey, I've seen these words before. I can do it and I can move on. But here there is practice for printing. I love practice for handwriting. Here it says circle the letters that make the beginning sound you hear. Read the makeup words, draw a line from the puzzle phrase to the picture it matches. So personally, I love this curriculum because in this lesson, we we're still with consonant blends. And sometimes we want children to read books, even at the kindergarten level. But the child hasn't learned to blend yet, to blend letters. Or even if the child has learned CVC words, these rules are so important because they're part of words. And here you see flag, flash, floor, float, fly, flame. But if you don't know that these go together as a full sound, as a together sound, the child may be reading a word ooh, ah, g, and try to sound that out and struggle with that, take a little bit longer. But with this method, and of course the parent or educator is the one that's teaching the right pronunciation for these words. But my main thing that I love is that there is a pattern to learning how to read. You can't just be thrown a book and read the whole thing without being familiar with these phonics rules. These are rules, these are patterns that repeat themselves. So once you kind of understand it, when you find a word in a book later on that has these rules, it all connects. It all starts to make more sense. So the rest of here we have silent E, and silent E is a big one that we see in many, many words. And it's just so nice to take a moment and really go through. This book is going through long A words, long I words. These long vowel words, it's so nice to really spend time in understanding the rules, understanding the difference between those and the short vowel words. This is another ending. This is focusing specifically on an ending sound that is very common. The child will see it in many other books. And as long as you understand the concept behind it, then you're good to go. This is another ending that's very, very, very popular. You see it in many, many different words. And here what we're doing is dissecting that specific ending, making it into a lesson. Like you see, each lesson has like 5 or 6 pages. They do work with different colors. So here they wrote the ending in red, and here they wrote beginning part of the word in black, last part of the word with the ending in red. So they are using the color, the ability to have the curriculum in color to helping the child make more sense. So here, the words here are in purple, the questions are in orange, and the child is writing in pencil, will be in pencil color. But it helps to kind of use color to make this curriculum, tries to make this information that's very complex into bite sizes. And that's what I think works best for me, for my child, because other curriculums just fly through this information and don't let you sit with that information long enough to where you can make it, you can remember it next time you see that word. So long vowel sounds are very stressed in this curriculum. They take their time. O and E, silent E at the end. Here, this is also a consonant blend. And you continue with pictures, continue with a colorful curriculum. And children love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is my favorite curriculum for phonics because it's, the more we do the workbook, the more I have seen my child understand more and learn to read better. Now, you don't expect your kindergarten student to know all of this, or to work all of this by themselves. So this curriculum, you can't just have the child sit and the parent not be there, because the parent needs to kind of tell them the rules, explain them the rules, read the directions, and guide the child throughout. Here it's like a color the picture. All of this helps with handwriting, fine motor skills, which is something that is still being developed, in that level. And sometimes they give you an example. So they did the first one for you, and then you can do the rest. I believe that this curriculum is good to have. If you can buy the whole box curriculum, you will have all 4 books, you will have the teacher guides, you will have the readers. And I think that is a solid package to have. Still, we're working on endings, on finding those patterns. The pictures try to be as descriptive as possible. I just love how they are able to express a difficult word through a picture in such a small amount of space. So that's kind of something that they did that I love. The pictures are more vintage looking pictures, but it's nice. It's appealing to me because I am much older, but each picture tries to explain a message that the child can easily recognize and kind of connect. So this is my absolute favorite curriculum. I just wanted to do this video because many parents are still trying to teach their children to read. They are still they would like the children to recognize these patterns in words as they read them. And this is one of my favorite patterns because it comes in so many words. And the child will be able to, sometimes we just want the child to pick it up and read and go. And here there's like a little story that, the child can read. But sometimes the child cannot read fluently or cannot just keep reading once they find a word that they do not have seen before. And instead of having the child memorize words, like sight words, like 100 sight words or 50 sight words or 20 sight words per week or some kind of number of memorizing, here we are focusing on what sounds you hear at the beginning of the word, sounds you hear at the end of the word. And the child is able to learn to read based on patterns, based on phonetics rules and patterns that are there, that you're gonna see throughout. So it's easier to memorize the pattern or memorize the rules because, like you see, the rules are really small. They're easy to make sense of and memorize after you have worked on them and you can easily recall them than it is to memorize different words. Now here you have the double E, and this is kind of one of my favorites because it also shows up in many words. and they do the exact same thing. The first one is the long sound, the second one is the silent E. So that's kind of how they explain it. They explain the rule, review, double vowel rule, and then you have practice. So this is with pictures, so it's more nice of an opportunity to practice than to say, hey, there's a list of words, memorize them. Because here, when you see the makeup words, these words do not make sense. But if you know how to read the rule, then you know how then you'll be able to read this word even if it doesn't make sense. So we are reaching to the end of the book. I wanted to show kind of like a flip through. It's not page by page, but I just wanted you to know that there is a pattern. There is a way this book is structured and ordered. There's plenty of opportunities for practice. And if you come across a section that you feel your child needs more practice, you can supplement it with flashcards, with writing that rule or a few of those words on a notebook or on the board, and just kind of spending more time with it. And that's something that you can do on an individual basis as you see that how your child makes sense of everything. And like I believe that if you kind of follow how your child is progressing with this curriculum, you can get a feel for if this curriculum is enough to teach your child these rules, or if you feel like your child needs any additional practice. But I am all for using different curriculums. For instance, I do not have everything Horizons has to offer. But for me personally, I love this information. These 4 books, I love going through them, and I feel like there's so much to be learned just from those 4 books. Now, if you also have another curriculum that you enjoy for phonics or for language arts or for handwriting, and you want to use those, you're more than welcome to use it too. And use this as a supplement, or use this as your main book and supplement with something else. But I believe that if you go through these 4 books, you're going to see such a growth in your child as far as reading goes. And you're going to see that this book makes sense. This book is helping your child understand those concepts through the pictures, through the handwriting, through the circling, through the making a line. The child is reading, the child is making connections. And for me, because this uses pictures and because this curriculum is so open and go, it's kind of one of my favorites. I know there are other curriculums out there that require you to do so many different activities, and a lot of people don't have that time. So even if you are on the go, you have to go to an appointment and you are in the waiting room with your child, you can grab this book and do a couple of pages, and it doesn't take all day. It's really, really easy, really, really fast to go through pages while you are, if you need to go somewhere, instead of grabbing a ton of all curriculum with you, you just grab the one workbook you are working on right now. So I love this one. It does come with a reader. The reader helps the child to read through the same words and information and rules that they went over in this book. So that helps to to promote fluency, to promote reading or independent reading, and that's wonderful. And also, my last thing I wanted to say is that if you have been looking at this at several other curriculum and you are like, well, this curriculum will not work for me because my child is no longer in kindergarten, don't, don't kind of be discouraged from using this book because you see a big K in here. Honestly, a regular kindergarten may not know all of these rules that we have gone over in this book because they are trying to learn a lot and they are so young that there's so much that they are trying to grasp at once. And sometimes you may have a child who has developed more in one area but still hasn't developed yet in another area. So just kind of don't focus on the level that this book is aiming at. I feel like this book could be used for first through second or third grade, depending on where the child is, depending on if the child has already learned these skills or not. And like I said, many other curriculums assume your child can pick up on these rules. And they don't teach you the rules, they teach you the words. And they expect you to come up with the rules on your own. This curriculum has taken the time to piece out to do that background work and divided everything into pieces. Find the rule, have the beginning consonant blends, and also the ending words, and tell you the rules with the vowels. And that alone can give the child the tools for the child to figure out words as the child is reading a book. If the child comes up with reading a word that follows these rules that the child has been working on, then the child's brain will kind of fill in the blanks and make an attempt at reading that word, even if the child has not been exposed to that word before. So that's the difference between memorizing sight words and learning the root pieces of the words so that the child can read without having memorized the information previously. So here, this curriculum is not about memorizing, it's not about sight words, it's about rules. And that's why I wanted to take the time to make this video, because I know that some parents want to find more information about this curriculum, and this is my biggest difference, my biggest kind of review on it, is that it focuses on rules. And once you have the rules at the beginning of the lesson, then you have room for practicing those rules. And then you move on to the next lesson and follow the same pattern. And it's all with colors and pictures and very child friendly. And there's not a whole lot of handwriting, but there is a little bit of handwriting here and there, because that still is a skill that the child is mastering. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching this video, and I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.